Thank you very much. I want to thank, I'm not going to mention everyone behind me, but I want to thank, we just had an hour-long meeting. I want to thank members of the Boston delegation, both state senators, state representatives, also city councilors. Thank you all for being there with us today. I want to thank representatives from Attorney General Healy's office who's with us today as well. We have members of the Urban League. Donnell Williams, the president of Urban League, was with us. Tanisha Sullivan from the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, Civil Liberties Union, the Black Ministerial Alliance. We had a lot of different representation from all over the city of Boston, all over the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, certainly with us this morning this afternoon to talk about and share some of the concerns that we're all feeling and hearing from constituencies and around the country. We're going to have a brief speaking program today, myself, and then I'm going to turn over to the governor, who will say a few words. The governor will then turn over to the commissioner of the police department, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Evans will turn over to Dan Bennett, the Secretary of Public Safety, on a statewide level, and then we will open it up for questions. You can ask myself, any four of us, but anyone behind us who's here as well. Please feel free when you're asking questions. If you see somebody and you want to direct a question to somebody other than the four people speaking, would love you to do that. Since the weekend, our thoughts and prayers have been with the people of Charlottesville, Mayor Michael Signer, and all the victims of the violence and the targets of hatred. We want to say to them today that Boston, we stand with you. I spoke to the mayor yesterday, and I told him, his wife is from Lexington, so he has a connection to Massachusetts. I told him that we certainly do stand with you. And today we have a book in City Hall, in the lobby of City Hall, that anyone can sign a message of condolence that will support and deliver to Charlottesville. So please, when we're done here this afternoon, I'd love to ask the press as well, when you come in, if you can sign the condolence book so we can send it off at the end of the week. Tonight, we will light City Hall in blue and orange in honor of the University of Virginia. Those students in that community that stood strong in the face of hate, we stand with them. We also have a message to the hate groups, especially any that are planning to come to our city this weekend. Boston does not welcome you here. Boston does not want you here. Boston rejects your message. We reject racism. We reject white supremacy. We reject anti-Semitism. We reject the KKK. We reject neo-Nazis. We reject domestic terrorism. And we reject hatred. And we will do every single thing in our power to keep hate out of our city. We are a city that believes in free speech. But we will not tolerate sentiments to violence. We will not tolerate threatening behavior. We will not have it. And we will stand in solidarity as a diverse community and a diverse nation, as we do every single day. The news from Charlottesville reached me between my weekend events in our city. I was at a block party in Roxbury. I was at the August Moon Festival in Chinatown. I was at the Dominican Parade in Jamaica Plain. I was thanking veterans for their service in East Boston. Those veterans didn't have to be asked twice to condemn swastikas and all that they stand for. Yet our president had to be shamed into doing the same thing 2 days later. This was never a many sides issue. This is a right and wrong issue. The vice president talked about fringe groups. We're not a fringe. If they're allies in the White House, we heard the rhetoric at those campaign rallies. We heard the silence this weekend. Don't hand hatred a megaphone and pretend you can't hear it. Leaders call out hate and reject it before it becomes violent. That's why we're here today. That's why this weekend myself and the governor spent nearly about 10 or 15 different phone calls talking about how do we reject hate in the Commonwealth and the city of Boston. And we must also state what we stand for as Bostonians, as Americans, as human beings. We stand for compassion and inclusion. We stand for diversity and equality. We stand for love. We stand for justice. And nothing and no one will ever change that of who we are. Now it's my honor to introduce to you the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Governor Baker.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everybody who had the chance to meet with us earlier today and discuss the tragic events this past weekend in Charlottesville. Earlier today, I spoke with Virginia Mayor Terry McAuliffe to express our concerns and our outrage and our solidarity with him and with the people of Virginia who stood tall against the white supremacists who came to Charlottesville and caused such havoc in that small town. What happened in Virginia was a tragedy and an act of terror. A tragedy perpetrated by white supremacists that disturbed, as it should, Americans everywhere. As governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I want to be clear that there is no place here for that type of hatred, period, that we saw in Virginia. We stand here together today as elected officials, law enforcement, and community leaders to say that we will not tolerate the kind of hatred and bigotry we saw there in the Commonwealth. What happened in Charlottesville, simply put, was an act of terrorism, where an individual sought to hurt people and killed an innocent woman bystander and tried to incite fear into a group of innocent people. As far as I'm concerned, that's terrorism. It's disturbing and it's sickening to turn on the news and see that there are people in this country who believe that the color of their skin or their place of birth makes them superior to their neighbors. And we as a Commonwealth flatly reject and denounce this intolerance. The mayor pointed out, and I agree wholeheartedly, that freedom of speech is a founding principle of our great nation. And while this right has served us well, often promoting unity and tolerance, it can also be wielded as a weapon of divisiveness and hatred, as we saw in Charlottesville. With this right comes responsibility, and in Massachusetts, we accept the responsibility to loudly reject any forms of hatred and bigotry. Since the horrible events in Virginia took place, our state public safety officials have been in close communication with our colleagues in the federal government, our partners in the city of Boston, and those across the Commonwealth to make sure that what happens in Virginia does not take place here in Massachusetts. And to those who engage in violent acts of any kind, understand that you will be held responsible, and we will do everything in our power to prevent any type of threat to the people of this Commonwealth and this city going forward. With respect to the rally being planned for this weekend, the state police, along with the Boston Police and other state and local and federal officials, will work closely with community organizing groups and others to monitor the situation and take the necessary precautions to make sure that everyone plays by the rules and that we have a safe weekend here in Massachusetts. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Evans. There you are.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Mayor Walsh. First of all, I'd like to express my condolences to the families of the two Virginia State troopers who lost their lives, our fellow officers who were out there doing their job, and they lost their lives tragically that day, and obviously to the young lady who was, run down. That's sad. But, we're all here united to stand against the hatred of what happened that day in Charlottesville. We're often, as police officers, sort of thrust in the middle of protecting groups that we don't necessarily agree with, and I think that very much can be the case on Saturday when this particular group wants to come to the Boston Common. We have a good plan. We've been meeting since over the weekend. This morning we had a meeting, and I'm very confident in our plan. I think we've handled major demonstrations in the city, whether it be Patriot celebrations, parades, Occupy Boston, Black Lives Matter. So I think I'm confident that people who do come down and are going to march are going to be safe. All I ask, and I'll say, is we do anticipate large crowds, but we expect best behavior out of people. We will not tolerate any acts of violence or any misbehavior or any vandalism whatsoever. We're going to have a uniform presence out there, and we're going to make sure the event goes off as smoothly as possible. We've been reaching out to this particular group. At this time, there has been no permit issued. We're going to work with them on the parameters if there is a permit issued, and we'll make sure they abide by that permit. The same goes through with a lot of other protesters. We're going to work with them as they approach the Common. So, we're hoping that we have a safe day because, we don't want anybody to be injured. And like I said in the meeting, I want to thank all the community leaders here, all the electeds who I work with day in, day out. It's pretty sad that we have to waste so many resources on such a group with such hatred coming to Massachusetts when we should be focusing on the safety of children on the streets of the city. And so, it's just, it's troubling to me that we have to deal with this day and age. So on behalf of all of us, and the mayor, we all stand for the same thing, and that's we're for peace, and we speak strongly against hatred, and we'll make sure this event goes off without a hitch. So thank you all. I appreciate it. And at this, I'm going to introduce Secretary of Public Safety Dan Bennett, who is in charge of the state police. The state police will be assisting us if we need them on that particular day. And so, again, it's nothing new to us. We've handled major demonstrations, and I don't find this any different on that particular day. So, Dan?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Evans. The Boston Police have the primary responsibility. I'm 100% confident that the Boston Police are going to keep this and make this a safe day. They've planned many of these events. The state police have been part of the protection of Boston. We are ready to perform the role and assist them in whatever duty they need. We have 2,000 state troopers that are ready to work together with the Boston Police. It's been a great teamwork every time there's been either a demonstration or a celebration in Boston. We're here to help them protect the city of Boston. I have 100% confidence that the Boston Police and the state police are going to make this a safe day on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Secretary. I'd like to, before we take questions, just ask one more person, Tanisha Sullivan, president of the NAACP, to say a few words.
First, we send our condolences and our deepest sympathy to the University of Virginia community, the Charlottesville community, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and those families who lost loved ones this past weekend as they stood on the front lines fighting for freedom, justice, and equality and standing up to hatred. We all owe them a debt of gratitude. We also want to thank the city, Mayor Walsh, the Commonwealth, Governor Baker, law enforcement, who over the past 36 hours have worked diligently and together to help ensure the safety and security of this community, and also to help affirm who we are as a city and who we are as a Commonwealth. It is clear, and there should be no mistaking, that we stand against hatred, we stand against racism, we stand against the terrorism that we all witnessed this weekend, and we are committed to ensuring that that will find no place here in the city of Boston or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so we as the NAACP stand ready with other civil rights leaders, other community-based organizations to support the city and to support our collective community as we stand resilient this weekend and beyond.
Thank you, Madam President. Any questions? Well, there's no marching yet. There's been no applications pulled. All we know of what we're seeing on social media, as the police said, Commissioner Evans said, they're working, trying to find out who this group is, what they're all about, and we're certainly going to encourage them not to march in our city. They have not filed for any permits, and we will make a decision on what we'll do with the permit if they apply for one.
But they're still planning to come.
One of the organizers of that march on Saturday said he did apply. Is he not?
He didn't. No. To my knowledge, we've been talking. They did not apply. They did not apply.
But Mayor, I was talking to one of the organizers, and they're still coming. We're regardless
I
of the permit. So what happens then?
Maybe what I'd ask you to do is give the contact information you have for the organizers to the police department, so they can track down who's actually organizing this. We're gonna continue to stay connected all week long. The people behind us, elected officials, and the police department, we're going to monitor this situation all week long. We know that there is going to be a peace walk in the city of Boston on Saturday. We already know that that's being planned, and we're going to work with that organization as far as the walk goes. And again, we don't have enough details on this free speech, whatever it is they call it.
Aside from the free speech movement, as they call themselves, it's aggregation of alt-right groups, white supremacists. So you do know something about them. So I'm wondering.
Not necessarily, because I know that we had a group in here, and Commissioner Owens might be able to talk about this last year, that we think that had a similar name, similar idea, but it was a completely different organization, completely different group, and we're still trying to figure out exactly. The person that's kind of leading the charge in this one is different than the last one. Is that correct? So we're still reviewing them.
Civil rights leaders here have asked, I know I've asked, perhaps they should be canceled. What's your consideration?
We're going to do everything we can that this march does not happen, or this demonstration does not happen in our city on Saturday. I'm just gonna. That's all I can say to you at this point.
And you do a mayor walk.
I think one of the ways that we had a conversation about that, and I don't think we view it as a counter protest. I think we view it as a solidarity stand with the people of Virginia, to stand with them against hate and racism. And I think that's if there is to be a march or a protest or a rally, if you will, on Saturday. We will stand with them, with the people. There's been two now already since Saturday night in the city. There was one on Saturday night, and there was one last night.
Specifically with regards to the
protesters. Say again?
At what point will police intervene between protesters and rally partners to make sure that violence doesn't happen?
I mean, I think right off the bat. I mean, our intention is, and the commissioner maybe if he wants to come up here, our intention was not to let the two groups together.
Again, you know, we have a good plan. We'll separate them clearly. We'll have barriers. We'll have our pedal bikes. We'll have plenty of assets to keep them at bay. Obviously, I anticipate huge crowds from the anti-group than I do from, you know, the group that's pulling the permit. So, you know, it's just a matter of keeping them separated, and we've done that in all our protests, whether, you know, it's out at you know, Planned Parenthood, yeah, in other protests, you always keep each group at bay, and so that's our plan. And you know, if things get ugly, obviously, you know, we'll pull them out and get them out of the area as quickly as we can. But again, I have the utmost confidence in the men and women of my department, and with the state police backing us in, we'll have a good plan.
You're talking about the ralliers.
Yeah, if all of a sudden bottles and, you know, people are put in any type of danger, we're not going to tolerate anybody getting hurt, any acts of violence, and if we see that start to happen, then the rally's going to end real quick. Well, again, I'm not going to give away our game plan. Believe me, we got a great plan. We'll have sufficient amount of officers. We never give out what we have, but you know, we'll have public order platoons standing by on buses, both Boston and state police. I'm hoping we don't have to have them. We'll have undercover officers working the crowd, anticipating any anarchist type groups who might try to bring the march to a different level. And so, you know, we've dealt with a lot of demonstrations over the last 5 years, and I think we do a good job at them, and I don't anticipate anything different on Saturday.
Specifically, what in the permit, and you say you're going to make them, if you give them a permit, you're going to make sure that they adhere to the restrictions. What specific restrictions do you envision in a permit?
Well, we always set restrictions. Well, if they want to march, this is the route they're going to take. If they're going to have a stage, they have to have certain diameters of the stage, amplified device. We can pinpoint where they're going to be, and we set the ground rules basically of what their event's all about. And we'll also work with the other groups who we anticipate are going to march and ask them to cooperate. What's going to be your route? And again, it's different now with all the demonstrations. Not only do we have to worry about keeping the groups at bay, but we have to worry about what happened in Charlottesville with someone driving into the crowd. So well, we'll secure the common very well, and we'll secure some of the routes into the common very well.
Protesters pull the permit, or do they need to pull a permit to counter protest?
Oh, we'll ask them to pull a permit, but again, when I anticipate huge crowds here, we'll work with them. That's the best we can do. We ask them usually to pull the permit, so we can work with them, and it just goes easy if they let us know the route they're marching, because we can have our motorcycles up ahead securing the route for them. So a lot of things go easier when there's cooperation by both groups.
Can you share what intelligence you know, any links to the Charlottesville incident with this group that's planning a march on?
And we don't know enough. We're really digging into it. I can tell you the march that we had in May is not the same free speech group as we have coming to town. That group pulled the permit. They worked very well with us. Most of these groups, and we've dealt it with some of these somewhat fringe groups, they want the police to know what they're doing because they have to be protected. If they don't tell us what they're doing, they're basically going to be out there in a very angry crowd. So most of these groups, when we deal with them, whether it's the Baptist groups the group that protests the veterans' funerals, they won't come to town unless they pull a permit because they know they're fair game if they don't have us protecting them. So that group that did the free speech in May, they work very closely with us. This group here, we have no cooperation with right yet.
What would you say to a group of
Honestly, I have no idea. I think that I didn't know that there was even talk of this group coming to our city on the 19th until the incidents in Virginia where it started to hit social media. And then that was Saturday, and then we started to inquire about, did they pull a permit, who are they, what are they all about? So I have no idea why they intend on coming to Boston. We don't know if they're connected to Charlottesville's rally, folks that were there. So we're still doing that information. I have no idea. I don't even know how accurate it is. I mean, I know one reporter spoke to an organizer of it, but we haven't spoken to organizers of it yet, so we're not even sure how accurate it is yet. Well, yeah.
Not allowing what can we prevent?
I mean, yeah, I think we can try and encourage this group. I mean, if this group is not connected to Charlottesville, what we can do is try and encourage them not to come to Boston this weekend. And try and, at some point, maybe down the road, but not this weekend. The emotion and the wounds and the pain is very fresh from what happened in Virginia. We're talking 48 hours now from the incident that happened there, and by the week it'll only be 6 days. So we would probably ask them not to come to our city at all, but at least not come to our city this Saturday.
Advice be to maybe a family from out of town that wanted to come into Boston on Saturday just to enjoy the city?
Come to Boston, absolutely enjoy the city. We're going to be, we've had rallies and protests both before in our city, and it's going to come to our city. It's a beautiful city, Boston, and come and see who we stand. Come and see the diversity of our city, the immigrant diversity of our city. Come and see all of that in our city, how great we are as a city, and why we're one of the greatest cities in the world.
Governor, given how long it took the president.
Military and tactical gear, and I know you said you can't necessarily give away the plan, but seeing what you saw in Charlottesville.
Charlottesville turned into a riot, and I think what in what I observed, and the governor can talk about this, Secretary Bennett and Commissioner Evans. Both sides it was a very tough area. The governor can allude more into this. He had a conversation with the governor there, but both sides were able to connect. In our city, we will do everything we can that those two sides never connect. Now, does that mean that our offices, we have not used, the city of Boston, in the last 3.5 years, Commissioner Evans, Chief Willie Gross, myself, our police department, even with all the protests that have gone on in our city, have never used riot gear. In this particular case, if they were to come to our city, these anarchists and this group of people that came to Charlottesville with weapons, we would make sure that our offices are protected so they can protect the other people that are with them.
For a long time. Given the president's behavior over the last 48 hours, do you think he's still fit to serve?
Look, I made my decision clear about that one last fall. I think one of the most important things you have to be able to do, and you should do as a public official, especially an elected public official, is hear people and give people an opportunity, whether they agree with you or disagree with you, to get their point across and to deliver their message. And I know there are a lot of people in communities of color who don't believe they're being heard by this administration, and I think they need to do something about that.
Questions? Two more questions, please.
Governor Baker, can we count on you to be there at the counter protest this Saturday when they happen?
First of all, why don't we call it a unity rally instead of a counter protest? I think I would like that better. I guess what I would say is I actually don't know what's on my calendar Saturday, but if I can come, I will come.
I'm not even sure it's on my calendar yet. We're gonna one last question, then we're gonna end it.
I just want to know, can you respond to the president taking 2 full days to say that it was neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the KKK that were rallying?
Well, look, I'm a Republican, and I've been a Republican for a long time, and I got no problem with that because I believe that my Republican Party stands for freedom and opportunity and big tent and collaboration. And I think every single day on Beacon Hill, our administration works to deliver on that particular brand of republicanism. I called out the president on a number of occasions. I call him out when I disagree with him. I think he should have come out and said what everybody else was thinking and believing shortly after the incident that occurred in Charlottesville, which is white supremacists have no business and no place in American political dialogue, period. End of discussion, case closed.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Pastor, want to close out? Yeah. We're going to have Pastor Everett close out our press conference.
Will you join me in a moment of prayer? Holy and gracious God, we know you by many names. We come to you this day with heavy hearts. We direct our prayers to the people of Charlottesville. Oh God, be with your people. For every person in Charlottesville who goes to bed afraid, who goes to bed angry, who goes to bed fearful that their neighbors do not love them, oh God, be with your people. Holy and gracious God, for every mother and father and child who is afraid, attend to them. Strengthen the bonds of community so that all may live in the fullness of life. And God, even as our hearts are in Charlottesville, we direct our prayers to Boston, the soil under our feet, the ground on which we stand, this city that we love, this community we call home, this commonwealth. Oh God, help us to know how to be good neighbors. Help us to know how to be kind and just. Help us to know how to denounce what is evil and hold fast to what is good, and to render no one evil for evil, but uplift the faint-hearted. Oh God, we confess the ways we have fallen short of that vision of a commonwealth. For every parent here, every mother and child who goes to bed afraid, oh God, attend to them. Make us courageous and strong to be neighborly. Help us to link arms one to another so that we may stand strong with our heads held high in the dignity to which we have been created, each and every person made in the image and likeness of God. Oh Lord, we pray for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And for all that is evil, all that is trying to divide us, we renounce it and we cast it out. That our spirits might be light and our souls may be clear and we might be good and kind to one another. We believe in that vision of a commonwealth. For all of those who are afraid, we send our love. For all of those who might divide us, we stand united. For Massachusetts, for Boston, for each of us, we pray. We call you, O God, by many names. I claim you again this day in the powerful name of Jesus, the Prince of Peace. Alleluia. Amen.
And again, I'd like to ask all of you, even the press when you're done here, if you could come on in, and the condolence book is right on the right side of the door. Thank you.